Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the May 1st meeting of the California High-Speed Rail Authority's Board of Directors. We'll start this morning with the roll, please.
Here.
Chair Richards,
Here.
Director Camacho. He was here. He was here
He
earlier,
had
yeah.
to leave, yeah.
Okay, Vice Chair Miller,
Here.
Director Perea, Director Gilmetti, Director Scutia, Director Williams, Director Cohen, Assemblymember Carrillo, Senator Gonzalez. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Emily, would you do the Pledge of Allegiance this morning? To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And will the secretary please advise the people here in the audience and those who are joining us from around the state how they can address the board this morning?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin public comment for the California High-Speed Rail Board of Directors meeting, I would like to review some important information. For members of the public who have joined us in person and wish to provide public comment, you will be called on in the order we received your card. If you are joining the meeting via Zoom and wish to provide public comment, please use the raise your hand feature located at the bottom of your app. If you are dialing in by phone, pressing the number 2 will raise your hand and put you into the queue. Speakers will be called on in the order their hands are raised. Once you are in the queue and your name is called, please click the prompt on your screen to allow your microphone to be unmuted. If you are joining by phone, we will call on you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. At that point, you will hear a message that your phone is being unmuted. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to speak. I will remind you when you have 15 seconds remaining. When it is your turn to speak, please slowly and clearly say your first and last name, and if applicable, please state the organization you are representing. Mr. Chair, we'll begin with public comment in person with C. Lee, followed by David Schwegel.
Good morning, Ms. Lee.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Tutory, and members of the general public. My name is C. Lee, the CEO for the Boys and Girls Club in Merced County. I want to first and foremost thank Mr. Tutory for the beautiful op-ed piece in our local county times, outlining the plans and updates for the high-speed rail, including this segment from Merced to Bakersfield. I found that to be helpful in our situation. But I'm here today for 2 occasions. First, I wanted to share with all of you our 2024 annual review, demonstrating the potential impact that we could have on the organization if we don't find a solution as to how we relocate our services. Last year alone, we served 3,713 children and families in Merced County, the highest number since the inception of the organization in 1993. And, I just want to express the disruption the high-speed rail has caused our organization and our community. It's funny because I find it now more than ever that I'm doing more work for high-speed rail and educating our community about the work that you're doing than the club and ourselves. Excuse me. So I'm here to ask, some people are telling me I should load up a bus full of parents and residents and demand things from the organization, the authority. Others are asking me to take legal actions, but I trust that in this room, we have the right people to make the right decision, that we don't have to go down those paths. I am asking you today, we have spent nearly $250,000 of dollars from our own pocketbook, our own organization, to do high-speed rail-related relocation work. A bootstrap youth serving organization. I am asking you as the authority, you're here because you can negotiate. You are here because you can make decisions. And I'm asking you to provide us with resources and support to relocate our Boys and Girls Club. thank you again for your time and thank you for the great work that you're doing across the nation.
And thank you for joining us, Ms. Lee. Thank you.
It's up here.
I passed it. Next up, David Schwagel.
Good morning, Mr. Swagel.
Good morning, HSR Board. David Schwagel with some observations. We had some design build consultants behave badly by taking advantage of unpredictable right-of-way acquisition to generate creative change order composition, costing the taxpayers $9 billion, generating cost escalations and schedule elongations, making the project not attractive for private investment, and generating uncertainty in land acquisition for the Oberti Ranch. A more appropriate approach would have been for the consultant to say, hey, either you will acquire 100% of the right-of-way or you will find another consultant. On Merced to Sacramento, a regional consultant spent $7.5 million drawing lines on the map. Now, check out what Precision Civil Engineering was able to do with just $1 million. Conduct low-level field investigations to determine those lines to be unfeasible, conduct new low-level field investigations and design new routes that were feasible, write the connected corridor study that was used in the state rail plan, conduct public outreach that was so effective that Merced to Sacramento has more stakeholder support than any other project section, as evidenced in the February 2020 board meeting in this room. And Precision Civil Engineering also took detailed notes and prepared detailed reports on the public comments at every single board meeting, including the 142 public comments in the tidal wave in a meeting in Los Angeles. If every consultant did what Precision Civil Engineering did, and again, Precision Civil Engineering only spent $1 million, we would have an iOS running from Bakersfield all the way up to
15 seconds.
Sacramento, with Sacramento having tremendous ridership potential, second busiest Amtrak station, nation's largest urban infill project, capital city of the world's fourth largest economy now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Swagel.
Mr. Chair, that concludes our in-person comment. We'll now move to Zoom, and we'll start with Rob Davidoff.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I wanted to first of all say to the board and Mr. Chowdhury in particular that I appreciated the push for stable funding and that I look forward to the efforts of the legislature and the governor in securing that. I hope to hear good news, as I'm sure you do as well. On the subject of good news and specifics, I was curious. I called in and asked about the Canal 922 irrigation canal in CP4, which I believe is the only section of uncompleted guideway in CP4. I know that's in litigation at the moment, but I was curious if it was possible to provide any update on when that would be proceeding, since I saw that it has been removed from the list of utility relocations to be completed at all in CP4. Also, any updates on the process of beginning right-of-way acquisition for the Merced extension and the Bakersfield extension would be of interest. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Next up will be Marvin Norman. Mr. Norman? Mr. Norman, oh, he has unraised his hand. Looks like we have no more requests for public comment. So that'll conclude our public comment.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I've also received an update if folks who are speaking, whether they're at the podium or board members, to please speak into the microphone and be sure to turn them on.
Okay, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, then that will complete our public comment this morning. Moving on to our agenda items. Item number 1 is the approval of our March 6th board meeting minutes. We have a motion and a second.
Okay.
Please
Sure.
call the roll.
Director Schenk,
Yes.
Chair Richards.
Yes.
Director Camacho. Vice Chair Miller,
Yes.
Director Perea, Director Gilmetti, Director Scutia, Director Cohen.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, item 2 is the Fresno Station Early Works Construction Contract. Approval to solicit bids for construction. Ms. Cedoroff? Good morning.
Good morning. Let's double check. This is working fine? Okay, great. Good morning, Chair Richards, Vice Chair Miller, and members of the board. I'm Meg Cedoroff. I'm here to present 2 action items to the board this morning. I believe action item number 1 is related to an action item to approve notice to proceed for the Central Valley Station's final design, and specifically advancing final design work for the Fresno station, including standard drawings and specifications for modular components for the high-speed rail stations. So next slide. As you know, the authority qualified the joint venture of Foster and Partners and Arup to perform all the design services, including post-occupancy commissioning for the 4 Central Valley stations. The authority has been advancing design work for the 4 Central Valley stations since execution of the contract in March of 2023 and is now ready to advance to NTP2 work. Next slide. The contract was broken up into NTP1 and NTP2 in order to respond to available funding. NTP1 comprised the pre-design and administration work, the site investigation and analyses, concept design, and schematic design. Next slide. The analysis, the investigation, and design work included consultation with stakeholders who have a range of expertise and knowledge sets. This ranged from meetings with the general public as well as with detailed technical rail and systems interface meetings. Next slide. For the past 6 months, since the completion of schematic design, the authority has been engaged in detailed review of opportunities to right-size the stations by looking very closely at requirements. The results of this work will inform the next phase of design, which we refer to as design development. Next slide. NTP2 activities also involve finalizing specifications and standard drawings for the elements or the kit of parts that are shared across all of the stations, such as elevators, escalators, stairways, canopies, platforms, and utility vaults, among other items. Next slide. One of the unique design challenges for the Central Valley stations, which we've discussed before, is that they need to be right-sized for opening day, but have the ability to be easily expanded in the future as the system and ridership grows over time. Ridership and therefore passenger flows will grow as the system expands. And so the station must and can remain operational when that growth happens. We therefore have taken a modular approach to the design of the station.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We have taken a modular approach to the design of the station, already anticipating how that they can be easily expanded and further integrated into their surroundings while not interrupting the passenger service in the future. So this diagram illustrates that modular approach and station expansion as the system expands. Next slide. Typologies help to organize those modules of station expansion. Each typology represents a station that is comfortable and easy to navigate for passengers and easy to operate and maintain for the owners. This means using durable materials and natural light and ventilation, shading and orientation to create the best possible passenger experience. Typologies help the authority to be organized and consistent across the range of stations on the system. And through the kit of parts, they share a common design language, but are adaptable to each station city. Typology D is the reference case for the first building block for all 4 stations. Next slide.
Excuse me, Meg, even with my glasses, I can't see, I couldn't see this. And I think it probably goes to what I would be asking as a question. So
Yes,
we need to make these
larger.
larger.
Easier to read.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director Schenk.
And also, if you could get a visual of how all the modular parts together, what do they look like?
Exactly.
Okay.
But it seems like it's an approach to this similar to what all of us see in airline terminals, where they're built initially to meet the requirements of this number of passengers coming through, and we see them as they continue with construction as the demand increases.
Yes.
Similar sort of approach. All right, thank you.
Yes. So the Typology D station provides all of the functional requirements, including conditioned waiting areas, amenities for the passengers, and they allow for growth and development around the station. And just to provide, I realize, I think in the translation into the slides, the resolution and quality of the slides got a little bit lost. But this includes things like parking, local bus connections, vending machines, and other passenger services, some station operations booth and a room for station staff, as well as other passenger services that's conditioned waiting space for the passengers. And then sort of basic areas on the site, including parking. Oh, thank you. Parking, a shaded platform, waiting area, platform service infrastructure, which is all of the information, the communications, the technology that allows the station to communicate with the wider system, and then the vertical transportation, so elevators, escalators, and stairways. And those are all of the components that make up the first building block, which we put into this Typology D for the 4 Central Valley stations. Next slide. The action today and the board action is to approve for authority staff to issue NTP2 to F&P Arup to advance design under the design services contract for the Central Valley stations and to execute the NTP2 contract for an initial amount of $14 million for the Fresno station and kit of parts work. This is in line with the program baseline, scope, and budget authorized by the board in January of 2024. Action today enables the schedule to remain on track to complete ready for bid documents by winter of 2026 or earlier for the Fresno station. And on the next slide, the next steps include initiation of that kit of parts design work as well as design development for Fresno. Staff will return to the board as the baseline is updated and funding is available for the remaining stations. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions from any members of the board?
I have a question.
Yes.
Meg, thank you for this. I'm assuming, based on what I read, that you have downsized a bit could you just talk a little bit about that, if I'm correct?
Yes, as I know you've discussed at the board previously, we've been taking a very close look at all of the requirements for the system. And so that included looking at the way the alignment came into the station. Some of the ways we had configured that alignment previously, including the number of tracks within the station, that the station size was a little bit oversized for what we needed for the first several decades of operation. So the engineering staff, the rail operations staff, the civil engineering staff all worked collaboratively to understand how we could reduce the distance between the tracks, which would therefore narrow up the station, as well as analyzing those areas where we could remove a track because it would be in places like Merced, because that track would be superfluous for several decades. So we tried to take a very careful look at all of the infrastructure we needed just for opening day. And that allowed the station to be reduced in size. We also consulted with the early train operator, Deutsche Bahn, who's been looking very closely at the requirements for functional requirements for the station. We understood that we could co-locate or commingle some of those staff staff service elements in other places. We didn't need to duplicate spaces within each station, but that modular approach to design that means is as the system expands, as we have more staff operating the system, as there's more need for staff oversight within each of the stations, we can modularly expand the station to include those back of house rooms. So those are facilities for staff.
So as I understand it, we understand that given our budget constraints, we're designing a bare bones type station. Am
We-
I correct in that?
We are designing, to your words, bare bones. I would say it's all of the components we need for safe, comfortable, code compliant passenger
Of
rail
course.
service.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve,
We still have discussion,
Oh,
Henry,
sure.
if you wouldn't mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ms. Shank?
Hi, Meg, this is really exciting, sort of makes it real. I just got back a couple days ago from Japan
Mm.
and I couldn't help myself, from Shikoku to Hokkaido, from Osaka to Kanazawa. I mean, the first place I go is the rail station.
Mhm.
And I've seen these places since 1981 when I first saw it. And the tremendous, really well-done development around the stations, whether it's hotels or office buildings, department stores, shopping malls, integrated to the station.
Mhm.
People come out or go into the station and all of this is around there and the vibrancy. So at some point, I would like to see what this will look like
Mm.
and what it might look like in the surrounding areas for the development that we know will come with all of these stations. So Ian, if it's okay with you, I'll give Meg a call, and I really would like to see this because the excitement that I saw these past few weeks and the designs in the station, and I'm sure that, the experts are doing things that are being done there, but I'd like to see for myself
Yes,
in the design itself, because this is hard for me to figure out
yes.
what's
yeah,
there
it's
and what
very
isn't.
Contractual,
Yeah,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you, Director Shank. Director Gilmetti?
Meg, great presentation. I appreciate the effort that your staff made and you've made in terms of doing this modular approach. I think it's very common sense. So please continue. My only concern is the funding. We show that 80% of the funding is coming from the federal government and 20% from the state. I'm very nervous about receiving the federal funding and what that does and how, if it doesn't come through, how are we going to fill the remaining $11.2 million?
yeah.
I didn't think she was going to answer.
Yeah, I will let Meg focus on what she presented to you for the stations, but the funding. Today, we are going through the compliance review with the DOT, and we have provided all the information. We have not received anything in terms of that we were not compliant to what we committed through the grant agreement. These activities that Meg is talking about and others are part of our baseline schedule so that we continue to move forward. The risk of what happens if the federal grant money delivery, we're not saying anyone have asked us to remove that, that is yet to be seen. So at this point, the program is moving on the baseline schedule that we had. If we see any risk to that, we'll come back to the board and we'll inform whatever decision will be.
Yeah, I think I just want to make my fellow board members aware that if we proceed with this contract, both this item and the next item, is the board prepared to do the backstop if the Fed money doesn't come through?
Well, I think it's a contingency. I mean, we're going forward because we
Yeah,
assume, right.
Obviously, it has to come out of contingency or somewhere, but I'm just saying it, I want to make sure my fellow board members are aware that if the federal money does not come through, somebody's got to backstop these contracts if they're approved.
Well, the contracts will also have a provision that dependent upon funding. So it's not as if we are then contractually obligated, right?
Yeah, most of our contracts, or all of them, the consultants
There's a
do.
termination, there's a termination issue, in
Yeah.
it, but you know, you set somebody up for a full contract and, you know, they can come back and ask for a claim after that. I just want to make sure that the board's aware that when we go forward with this, if we go forward, if it passes, that there's got to be a backstop here somewhere along the way if the federal government doesn't perform.
The backstop would be in the contract language, I think, that we,
No, no.
It's time. Or what are we gonna ask them?
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah.
If I could add to the conversation, I think that Director Gometti, you bring up a good point, but within our baseline, we carry program-wide contingency. So if in an event, something was to happen, we do have options available to us within our already approved baseline to cover costs if in an event that was to happen.
I
But
just
as-
want to make
as
sure
the
that my
CEO has
board
stated,
members are
nothing
aware
has
that
happened
it's
as
going to
of
have
today.
to come from somewhere.
So Jamie,
Yes.
within your baseline in terms of contingency, do you have right now enough money to cover this? Should we not get federal funds?
Absolutely.
well, I would also ask to our lawyer that we have, I mean, I'm assuming, because I've seen these contracts before, that there are usually funding provisions in there, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
contingent on funding. Also, there
Right.
are termination clauses in the contracts.
Right, okay,
And
thank
then,
you.
and then thirdly, this particular contract is A&E. So it's different than a lump sum bid.
Right,
So the A&E is just progresses and, you know, we dictate the amount of work that's being performed through task orders and the like. And then those would be, so we direct the work. And so the expectation is that the full budget would be used for a particular contract. But if circumstances changes, that might not be the case. So the A&E, certainly that makes it simpler. For a
And
lump
that's
sum
in the
contract, yeah, yes. And so
but your point is well taken,
I'm not concerned.
Director
you know, look,
Galmetti.
Ian wants to stay on schedule.
Right,
Okay, so terminating the contract's not going to help staying on schedule. So you're going to have to use the contingency money in order to keep moving forward.
Yeah,
I just want my fellow board members to acknowledge that it's got to come from somewhere. Someone's got to backfill this thing.
and all I'm saying is that there are other legal options than backfill.
That's-
Okay, I
legal
know that
options
doesn't-
aren't going to keep us on schedule.
I
in this thing.
agree. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Just one other quick question, Tom. Going back to the ARA grant, is there anything in the ARA grant that also in staying compliant with the money that we'd spent there, that we needed to be, is this somehow mentioned in the ARA grant? It wasn't net funded through the ARA grant, but the obligations that we had with the ARA grant, do you know that off the top of your head? Is it?
no, the particular funding sources for this contract are the,
Yeah, I know what
federal state
they are for this one,
partner.
but I'm just, what obligations we incurred with the ARA grant when we accepted it and spent the money? Whether it contemplated, for instance, I think the completion of the 119 miles and that sort of thing.
yes, that's the scope of the work that needs to be completed within the
right.
ARA grant, correct?
Okay,
Correct, yes.
okay. But is it silent as to the train stations? As best you recall?
You know, there's an overlap between the ARA grant and the FY10 grant.
Yeah,
Certainly, one of those has the stations as a component.
yeah,
So some of the tasks within the grants overlap. So
yeah,
we've expended the ARA grant funding already.
right, of course.
So these but this particular item is not funded with the FY10.
Yeah, I was just all I was questioning is did we incur an obligation in the ARA grant by spending the money that we needed as we move forward? We obviously needed to have stations, and did it basically suggest that while it's not funding it, that's what we also have to have.
Yes, stations are part of the
Okay,
commitment.
right, okay, thank you.
And Chairman Richards, if I could add to that, I
Sure.
think you're right on the path is correct, because the ARA grant is helping us deliver a system. That was the theme, the principle behind it, to help us
Right.
moving. So yes, stations in the bigger picture are part of
Okay.
that theme.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie. All right, thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, do we have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion. And first, Meg, thank you for the presentation and thank you for the work you've done with Fresno, talking about that visioning around the station and what could be. 'Cause I know Fresno's pretty excited about it and they've been working on it. And of course, our conversation right now, our absolute top priority is to stay on schedule, right? But we also know, we have to look at our federal funding, what may or may not happen, but we do have contingencies, right? And we do have backstops legally in case something else is, another path we want to travel. But the point is, in my mind, is we stay on schedule. If we need to pivot, that staff come back to us in a timely manner so that we can make a full informed decision. And I think that's all we can do at this point with the goal that we're going to stay on schedule.
Thank you.
So with that, let's just make a motion to approval to begin work on NTP2 for the Central Valley stations.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and second, please call the roll.
Director Schenk,
Yes.
Chair Richards,
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller,
Yes.
Director Perea,
Yes.
Director Gilmetti,
Cautious, yes.
Director Scutia,
Yes.
Director Cohen.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the motion carries.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cedar. And now moving on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 3. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Fresno Station Early Works Construction Contract approval to solicit bids for construction.
Thank you. So the authority has prepared an early works package for the Fresno station that comprises groundbreaking for the future high-speed rail station in Fresno. Staff are seeking board approval for a solicitation for construction bids and award to the lowest bidder for this early works package. The project is composed of 3 major elements: renovation of a historic depot located within the overall Fresno station complex, early works at the H Street station entrance, which also allows access to the historic depot, and early works at the G Street entrance to the station, which many of you will know as Chinatown. Next slide. This is giving you a bird's eye view of the plan we saw on the last slide with all of those projects laid out. The overall station footprint, the future high-speed rail station footprint is in yellow, while in white are the early works projects that make up this construction package. To the top of the slide, you see the Chinatown Mobility Hub and G Street Early Works, and toward the bottom of the slide, you see the 8th Street Early Works and the historic depot renovation. Next slide. Work at the historic depot includes renovations for seismic and ADA compliance, re-roofing, restoration of historic elements, and demolition of non-contributing structures. On the next slide, early works at the H Street station entrance include utility relocations and new utility connections and site improvements, including access, sidewalks, stormwater management, parking, electric vehicle charging, and landscape, as well as lease space opportunities. Next slide. Early works at the G Street entrance include similar utility relocations and new connections, as well as site improvements, including site paving, sidewalks, stormwater management, parking with electric charging, and shade and landscape elements. The scope at the G Street entrance also includes transit vehicle charging and scooter and bike parking, making this a mobility hub. Next slide. This project utilizes a mix of state and federal funds for a total project cost of $58,090,000. We are using 2 types of federal funds and have established the scope of the sub-projects to clearly delineate the sources used for distinct project components. Next slide. We anticipate a total duration of approximately 27 months to complete construction and closeout for this project, making the facility and site ready for occupancy in late 2027 and early 2028. Award will be to the lowest responsible bidder per the public contract code, and the small business goals are assigned corresponding to the funding used. Next slide. After today's board action, the staff will complete the package and issue for solicitation scheduled for the third quarter of this year. Contract award and notice to proceed is scheduled for December of this year with groundbreaking in early 2026. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. Cedar? Yes, Mr. Gomez.
I won't repeat everything, but
Please.
this is another 80%, 20%. And I just want my fellow board members to realize the shortfall here is $40 million plus. Jamie, I don't know if we have enough contingency to cover that.
Yes, Director Gomez, I can confirm we do. We have more than enough
Okay,
for that.
So I'm just want to go on record that if there's a if there's a shortage, it's going to be a little over $40 million.
Thank you, Director Gomez.
Excuse me, 40 million for this project, but you also have enough contingency to cover the other project that we just voted upon.
Yes,
All right.
yes. The issue would only come into play if we were looking at billion-dollar contracts.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I won't repeat myself either, but
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I do have a couple of things I just wanted to ask her and wanted to point out. If you can look at the, it's not on your it's not on your slides, but on the write-up, there was a duplication on page 1 of the bullet points. So bullet points 2 and 3 are the same thing. Was there another bullet point that we missed or that was supposed to be on it?
So on the first page of the memo,
Mhm.
those bullet points correspond to the 3 major components of the project. So it's renovation of the historic district, historic depot.
Yeah,
It's early works and utility relocations at the H Street entrance.
okay.
And
Oh, I
then
see.
the
One of
same
them's G and
moves
one
at
of them's
D.
H, and
Yes.
that's all. Okay.
Yes.
Let me ask another question, and it may be for Jamie. I don't know the answer to it. That's why I'm asking. Can we qualify for historic building credits and or new market tax credits?
I don't actually know the answer to that, but we'll look
Okay,
into it.
so if we can,
Yeah.
they generally can, the combination of the two can provide close to 50% of the cost. So I'm not sure, it would seem to me we're renovating a structure that's on the historic register, on the National Historic Register. That generally is somewhere between 20 and 25% of the historic renovation costs. And new market tax credits can generate close to another 25%. So whether or not being a government, I know local government agencies, I understand, have the capacity to participate in the programs. I'm wondering whether we do, and if so, it wouldn't take long to look into it.
Yeah. we
But
agree.
let's see if we can do that, because that could cover 40 to 50% of the cost.
Yeah, let us go take that back. We'll take it as
Okay.
an action item.
Okay.
The one thing we'll point out, though, the historic depot renovation is covered 100% by the RAISE 2023 grant from the
Right.
federal government.
I'm
So
sure,
we've-
I see, I know that they're covered, but in consideration of also what Director Gometti has talked about, we can perhaps reduce the liability or the potential liability. We can also look at other uses if the or the federal government, FRA, is willing to allow us to look at that. But it's a way that regardless for we can do this for less money if it works. Okay, thank you. No, any other comments? Yes, Director Chang.
Maybe for the Fresno contingent.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what are the plans for the historic station once it's renovated?
Well,
Are they
actually,
gonna put a
it's
museum?
it's our building. What are we going to use it for?
So to begin, we're going to use it for state staff and consultant staff, because this will be an active construction site as we move to track and systems construction, as well as the Fresno station construction overall. So the reason we're taking this action now is to get the building renovated and ready for staff to move into. And then it's also available for lease space over time. We've
Will
kept
this
that
be
mix as well.
like office and or retail space and things like that?
Yes, we've kept the renovations flexible in order to accommodate different types of uses over time.
There's the one in San Diego is a wonderful museum.
Yeah.
That's
now.
one option that's been
Yeah.
floated.
I was
Will the
just curious.
community have access to some of these, perhaps conference rooms?
Yes, that is also something we've had quite a few consultations with the surrounding community and the city, and part of the design of this overall package is to make sure there's elements of this work that are available for public use or are public amenities as well.
And just to follow up on something that Director Shanks said earlier, but we have followed and been told about the value of the retail revenue generated for stations in Japan specifically, which we've seen numbers that are pretty consistent around 30%, 34% of total revenue coming from revenue generated at those stations, at and around the stations. So it's been something that we've focused on really from the outset, at least as long as I've been on the board, and you probably a number of years before that too. So, yeah, there's no question. Yeah, yeah. This is a very important and historic building for the city of Fresno. Right. I think it goes back to 1880 or something like that.
It does.
Yeah, used to.
Yes.
So it's a storied past with regards to rail. If there are no other questions or comments, do we have a motion?
So moved.
All right, motion by motion by Director Scutia, and thank you, I did it right.
Just
And-
with the staff direction included as listed by the chairman.
As an
Jamie, to
amendment,
move-
yeah.
To take a
Right.
look
Yeah.
at the
Yes, we will.
Okay.
look
new
at
market
historic
tax rate.
Okay,
for
thank you.
funding.
And seconded by Director Shank. Please call the roll.
Director Schenk,
Yes.
Chair Richards.
Yes.
Vice Chair Miller,
yes.
Director Perea, Director Gilmetti,
Cautious, yes.
and Director Escutia, Director Cohen.
I'll give this one a cautious yes, too.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meg, very much. Great job. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, item number 4 is the CEO report. Mr. Chaudhry.
Good morning. So as we continue in looking at the program overall status and seeing where we can have efficiencies and improvements, the focus for the team and my own remain on improving the delivery of the current commitments we have for building the 119 miles. What we are seeing there is that the improvements we could make are in the areas where our stakeholders, partners who are providing support to us, such as the freight railroads. We are working with them now to improve the schedule so we can finish all the work in CP 1, 2, 3. 4 is almost completed by the end of 2026. So our focus remain in completing 119 miles as soon as we can. And the other aspect of the program we are looking at is a complete bottom-up estimate of the entire program. And then with our new strategy on getting from finishing the Merced to Bakersfield and then getting to Palmdale, and then also looking at Gilroy opportunity. When we are doing the bottom-up estimate, there are 2 reasons for us to do that. One is we need to know the true cost of the program overall. And 2 is also have a strategy of stabilizing the funding and financing that I've been talking about for months, because we need to stabilize the funding and financing scheme so we can either bond or take federal loans or invite private sector, and we will talk about the private sector in a minute. That's where we are focusing. The other area that we are also streamlining and looking at efficiencies is within our own organizational structure. We'll talk a little more about that in detail. Next slide. The improvement for the schedule of completion of current civil work, the team has been laser focused on getting all the actions that they need to take out all factors that are stopping the work or was stopping the work, to get that done so that we can move and finish all the structures that we had to put in place within 2026. The next step for us this year, which is very important, with our new strategy to start laying tracks sooner than we were thinking before, is to complete our railhead project. What's in the railhead project is where we are bringing in all our commoditized materials and deliver it there. So when the contractors show up to lay tracks, we will provide directly that material that we are going to be purchasing through various contracts. And those materials generally include the rail itself, the concrete ties, the cables, the wires, and poles, and the stuff that does not change whichever contractor we choose to install those items. So we started railhead construction in January, and I will invite our statewide regional director, Basim, to give us an update on where we are on the construction of the railhead in Wasco.
Good morning, Chair Richards, Vice Chair Miller, Board, Basim Alem. I just want to give you an update on what CEO Chowdhury has mentioned about the railhead. So this is going to be a great project for us to do. We have started this project in January, mid-January of this year. And what it is, it's a site, it's about 145-acre site in Wasco. And we want to get all the commodities into the site by this year. The commodities being the rail, the ties, the ballast, the OCS, the copper. And for us to do that, we have partnered with BNSF. And the schedule as of now is January 15th, roughly, of this year, of 2025. January 15th of this year. BNSF started doing all the prep work on the site, clearing and grubbing. And from that point on, 3.5 months later today, we've done quite a bit of work. So what they've been able to do is they have been able to put all the embankments on the 2-mile siding for BN. They put the switch track. There are an area that's has storage tracks. It's about 6 of them. Each one is about 0.5 mile long. It's about 40-foot steel ties, bolted ties. They have finished that area. They have put the embankment. They cleared it, put the embankment, and they put also the sub-ballast. They have also put the sub-ballast on and the embankment on the 2-mile siding, and they already put the switch track. Going back to the 6 tracks, the storage tracks, we will be moving forward with that and moving ahead. What we're going to be doing is securing all the rest of the area. So by the middle of this month, by middle of May, we will have all the area ready with the embankment and the sub-ballast, so we can start actually putting rail. Rail will be done roughly by September of this year. We will put all the rail in. What's left to be done is to complete the entire 145-acre, to completely clear it and grade it. We will be putting a basin in. We will be putting all the roads around the perimeter and also within the 145-acre. So all that will be done. And we will be putting fencing and the basin, like I mentioned, and all that will be done. So by the end of this year, this site will be ready to receive material. And the material will be received in 2026, early 2026, and we're hoping that by year end, we will be laying tracks. To comply with really our vision, and our vision is that we want to build faster, smarter, and more economically. And this will really endorse that vision, in that we will be procuring the materials ourselves. We will be cutting the middleman. We will be cutting all the overhead, and we will be able to do this and monitor it and manage it ourselves. So this is the report.
Thanks.
Bassam, I have a question. Just so I'm clear, you said we'll start laying track end of the year, 2025 or 2026?
So there's two tracks. There's the tracks for the rail health facility,
Correct.
which will be done
By
by
the-
year end.
Yes.
Actually, by
Okay.
September, it'll
By
be done.
September.
And then the tracks to go to the alignment, we're looking at the whole alignment, the 119 alignment will probably be done in Q4 of 2026.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So as Bassif was mentioning, I mean, this approach that we took to secure contracts for buying these commoditized materials earlier is helping us in two ways. One, improves cost. Instead of passing on these type of purchases to a design build contractor, we are actually improving the cost by 15 to 20%. The other element of this, which is more important for us, is to start laying tracks as fast as we can. So getting these commodities in Wasco Railhead enables us to bring the design builder contractor next year, and they can then pick the material from this yard and start laying tracks from the CP4 going north, CP4 being completed at this point with that issue of a small canal that we are solving right now. That's the strategy for us to pull the schedule back by 18 months to 2 years for starting laying tracks, and then continue moving north. These track construction contractors, if we use the newer technologies of how we build and advanced machinery, we can lay about roughly a mile of track in 2 days. So track building will be way faster. We have explored those techniques. Once we get going, this work will be done pretty quick. The other area that we are looking at that I've asked team to work with us and making sure we also are improving our procurement and contracting strategies. That has been also an area of improvement that I looked at from day one when I came on board. And so as we were talking about last month, we had a lot of positions in the executive team that were not filled, but now I can say that we are almost there to complete the executive team who will run different functions in different offices within the authority. For the contracts and procurement, we brought on board Emily Morrison, and she's here. She runs now, is all consolidated under one activity, procurements and contracts, and then everyone reports through to Emily. And she has been looking since she came on board on every possible contract that we put out in the market, how we improve contracting mechanisms, how do we improve the schedule of contracts, and then how we administer these contracts. In the past, these contracts were managed all over the place. And there were some in the sites, some were in the field, some were in the offices. Now it's all centralized, and Emily represents that. So going forward, you can reach out to Emily anytime. I would like to introduce her. Emily, come on over and introduce yourself. And also talk about what you have been doing since you came on board for many years.
Mic test, can we hear me? Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name's Emily Morrison. I am the new Chief of Contract Administration here at the California High-Speed Rail Authority. Previously came over from the federal government. I worked for the Air Force for several years, worked on large-scale infrastructure contracts, putting together bench contracts, essentially, multiple award construction contracts, commonly known as MACs or MATOCs, along with large AE, IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity type contracts. I moved over from Mountain Home Air Force Base, went over to Kirtland Air Force Base, supporting their nuclear weapons program, managed the nuclear weapons maintenance support contract along with their base-wide IT support contract. And then transitioned over to the VA, and I managed their construction contracts for Northern California, Nevada, Pac Islands, and the Philippines. So bringing my experience from the federal government here to high-speed rail, right? Looking to streamline processes, streamline how we have our current contracts set up so that we can buy things quicker and also buy things more cost efficiently. Like Mr. Chaudhry had said, you know, buying materials directly through these contract, like these design builders, they will essentially put a markup on it, 15 to 20%. By us procuring them directly, not only can we ensure like adequate price competition by having multiple vendors provide us pricing for things like rail and the ties and the ballast. And that way we can have a pretty significant supply chain where we know that we're not going to have a shortage of ballast. We can pre-plan our material procurements for a sequencing so that we don't have, you know, long lead time events where the design builder comes in and they can't do the work because there's a 12-month lead time on an item. So what we're trying to do is set that up in advance so that we know which items, sequence them, which items have a long lead time so that we can align this with the start of construction. Other items that we are, in addition to material procurements, looking to streamline and instate a bench contract for some of our, you know, construction work that we're currently seeing. A lot of our work we are using, we're putting as a change order on our large construction packages, and ultimately shifting that away to do a bench contract that is a full small business set aside and allowing small businesses in the Fresno and Bakersfield area to compete on some of this work, which we can get done quicker and in a much more affordable manner as well. And then finally, once we do it, put, you know, getting all of these pieces, eventually working to get multiple types of bench contracts in place, including an architect engineer bench IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, where we can reach out directly to help reduce procurement lead times. By having bench contracts, we can ultimately reduce procurement lead times down to something as low as 45 days because we're utilizing task orders versus lengthy source selections. We're going to see something in the realm of 6 months plus sometimes. And then kind of on a macro scale, bringing my experience from the federal government here to help look at what some of the policies and regulations that we've kind of just been kind of an amalgamation that has occurred over the last 15 years to try to look to see what we can do to streamline overall processes. And then lastly, contract administration, which will all be condensed. Capital procurements and contract administration will all be condensed under my office. So that way we have a better sense of, you know, also what is going on post-procurement, you know, tracking these requirements, making sure that they're staying on their period of performance that we originally negotiated. The difficulty when you split those types of procurements is essentially when you go from procurement side to administration side, you don't have that cradle to grave contracting that allows you to see the full scope and keep people on the project from the inception to close out. When you transition people from one side of the procurement to the other, you're ultimately going to have turnover, you're going to have delays, you're going to have gaps in coverage. So kind of bringing that all under one office will help streamline. All right. Do you have any questions for me at all?
Vice Chair Miller.
Yeah, I was going to say
Thank
that was
you.
impressive.
We are very much in favor of all that you have just said.
Wonderful. I love
Welcome
it.
We're happy to
aboard.
have you here.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you so
Emily.
much.
So continuing on improvements that we are looking at within the authority, part of Emily's work that you just heard about is to streamline processes and improving schedule. But that's not it. We will continue to work over internally to look at where efficiencies we can have within the organization. One of the things in the last 4 months, me continuously looking at how we are organized, we did find that we have several places and functions where we have significant redundancies within the authority. When I say within the authority, that includes also our consulting partners. The evaluation was done and completed for first phase of optimizations, and we are implementing those. And we are implementing, as I always talk about, is like when you put 10 engineers to change the light bulb, generally it takes 10 hours to do that. If you put one, you will do it in 5 minutes. So we are looking at those duplications, redundancies. And the reason we want to do that is when we move forward, there is responsibility, accountability that comes with the job that we are providing to these different consulting firms and our own staff. And we want to make sure that decision-making process is very streamlined and it is productive, and it's providing the services that we need for the authority to move the program forward. I will invite Gary Walker to talk a little bit about the organizational strengthening that we are going through right now. We are not done. I think it will take us another couple of months, and by that time, we will implement all the recommendations we are getting from our partners who are evaluating our organizational structure today. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. CEO. Hopefully you can hear me. We have been very much looking at the reorganization. We are looking at areas for improved efficiencies across both staff and consultancies. We've just finished pretty much what we call the phase 1 in optimization, which has a significant reduction across all the savings. But more importantly, as an organization, we are far more integrated now. The restructuring that we're all experiencing as an organization, which includes all the consultants that add real value, and those that don't actually are part of the redundancies. What we're now doing is trying to improve communication of those organizations and also increase on the accountability, which is imperative because the communication lines weren't as smart as we could be, but we are getting there and we are improving on those areas very much so. This is what brings us into a one-team culture. The next phase of optimization will be to actually go forward in terms of where we can improve even more. We're going to streamline our connections, primarily with what the main offices are doing and how the information flow drives its way down onto the sites. It's imperative that we can change that and get more dynamic decisions to actually get faster and smarter. So this is just the first of many phases that we're going to go through.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Any questions for him?
Same comments to you as we made to Emily. Very happy to have you on board and for these changes. You got a lot of people shouting up here for you.
It's my privilege.
Thank you.
Okay, so continuing on looking at opportunities to make this program move faster and stabilizing the funding and financing. The one area that we started early on in November, when I looked at how do we go out and stabilize the funding and how to bring the private sector in, we've invited the private sector in January at our industry event, and I'm very happy to report that since then, the private sector has been coming back to us almost on weekly basis to share with us their thoughts and ideas of how they can bring private financing investments into the program. What is very important for us at this point is to work with the administration and legislature to get to a place where the backstop guarantees that we're looking for the program are established, and they are established based on what we have provided to them, so that the private sector then can activate and then start working with us on developing a delivery approach. And we would like to do that before this end of summer. So the authority has presented several scenarios, financial scenarios, to the administration and to the staff within the legislative teams. Up until last week, we explained how this program can move forward and we can build all the connections between Merced to Bakersfield and Bakersfield to Palmdale, and then from Madera to Gilroy, where we interconnect with other systems, which provides the private sector an interest in commercializing and generating revenues. That is the only scenario that works for the private sector investors. We have explained that to everybody who we came in contact with in the recent last 2 months. My ask has been that if we go and take that action, this project can be built in less than 20 years, connecting both sides, south and north. And then we will continue building towards San Francisco and LA and San Diego. But that's one priority for us, is to get stable backing from the state. And we'll continue to apply for federal funds. We don't see any reason for us not doing that, because if you look at in Western Europe and Japan, we talked about, it's always the federal government that puts the funding on these large, big programs. Here we are doing it with some state money and then some federal, and then there is some uncertainty that gets created. That's make this program very inefficient. We could continue like we're doing, but what I've explained to everyone is that that will be the most inefficient way to build. So I'm hoping that by the end of summer, we will have a financial solution from the state that we can actually go and engage with the private sector to come and help us build this. Yes.
Ian, when you say that by the end of the summer, that you hope that we will have some type of commitment from the state so that you can then go to the private sector and engage with them, are you talking about bonding against the revenue that we anticipate coming to us by way of cap and trade?
My point has been that the source of what we are asking the dollar amount come from, whether it's cap and trade or some other funds, we are giving a financial scheme. We're asking the administration looking at cap and trade as a source, but we need more than that. So we are, I don't want to say agnostic. We are aware cap and trade is a source, but the financial plan that we have presented is neutral to that.
Because from what I remember from my days in the state legislature, and I am not an expert in financing, we can finance against bonds, and obviously that costs a certain amount of money, or we can basically finance by using the full faith and credit of the state, and I don't know how much does that cost, and what's more expensive, to finance against a revenue stream or to finance against the full faith and credit of the state. And so I'm just trying to learn here, all right? I'm not trying to be an obstructionist. I'm just asking questions because I'm not an expert in this, but obviously we are in trouble. Mr. Gimetti has very clearly indicated that as we engage in these current, votes that commit us to pay for this or pay for that, it almost seems, rather, I hate to use the word speculative, but a financing plan for me has been one of the weakest links of this program. And I'm really, really grateful to you, Ian, that you are talking to the private markets about this. That cap and trade money is quite substantial. That is quite substantial to bond against that. So at the very bare minimum, that should be obviously, part of the strategy. The over and above, I don't know. That's way over my pay grade, The governor has his ideas as to how he wishes to do things. We'll be lucky if we get to find out what those ideas are, But for right now, I want to control what we can control. And that's why I'm also very, very insistent on being very assertive in developing a legislative strategy that's 2 weeks, from the May revise, as well as maybe 5 weeks before a vote comes down on the budget sometime in June. I hope that our legislative staff is out here listening to this, but we need to get going. and I am willing to help out. I am an expert in advocacy plans. I have been doing this practically all my life. And right now, I just don't see any activity, but I do understand that the governor is also heavily engaged in this, and I just hope that we all meet together towards the same goal, same mission, same timing, same sequencing, in order for us to really, start thinking very seriously about the financing for this project.
Appreciate your comments. And actually, we will take you up on your offer to help us in getting a little more organized.
So grab a plane, I'll be up there.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Director Cohen.
What challenges are in the way that could be addressed? What challenges stand in the way of making this a more attractive or the most attractive project possible for the private sector right now?
It is like Director was saying earlier, is the backstop, is the guarantee of the state, is the commitment over time. So we are doing the value for money analysis right now. So we know what the cost will be for, let's call it borrowing. The challenge is getting a state commitment on the backstop, or we can call it securitization or the guarantee, or using the credit worthiness of the state for X amount of dollars for X number of years. If we get that, private sector is ready to invest more.
So it's funding. It's just funding. There's nothing else standing in the way, for a long time, right of ways, utilities.
No, I mean, those are project activities. We have a very clear understanding of how we're going to go do those activities in the future. It is the funding. It is the backstop guarantees. Yeah.
It's the funding, but it's your plan too now to go all the way from Gilroy to Palmdale. That's enticing them.
That is what private sector. Well, the first when I looked at it in October, to me, getting out of the Central Valley and connecting it to the population centers is the most critical feature of this program. So yes, that is what we put it out to the industry, and the response was very positive.
I just wanted to make sure everyone understood is
Yeah.
it's the guaranteed funding and it's the new plan of getting from Gilroy to Palmdale.
That's correct. I mean, if we look at Caltrain system that we already electrified, so now you have a resident in Fresno able to go to San Jose in the Silicon Valley to work and be back. The one direction ride is less than 45 minutes. So, I mean, it changes the whole landscape
Right.
for where these systems are getting connected. And same is on the Palmdale side. Now, once the higher desert corridor interconnects with Victor Valley, now you have a rider from Fresno or San Francisco could actually get to Vegas by the 3 different systems.
That may cost them a lot of money.
Yeah, I know, but it will be a lot of fun too. Yeah, that will be the party train going to Vegas. Yeah. That's all from me. Open to
Thank
any
you.
questions, comments.
You can have one
Thank you, Ian.
question, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Sure, please.
This presentation, very good information. Thank you. Have legislative committees seen this presentation?
Yes, couple of days ago, we had about 10 people from different offices in the legislative team, staff visited us. We sat down, we explained, we walked them through all those scenarios that I just talked about. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
is it?
Yes,
Um,
Vice Chair.
A couple things. The project update report that you mentioned on page 4, the supplemental. I know that we will be hearing, I think, publicly about that. When will that be submitted to the legislature and to the public?
So we said in August, initially when we said it will come out after we release the update report, that the supplemental really will include 3 things: funding, financing schemes. Hopefully we can finalize that we just talked about, new cost, bottom up, and then the schedule. Those we were targeting towards August to deliver. Now, as soon as we released that information, we got a lot of interest from the administration to see if we can pull those pieces of information as they become available earlier. So what we did then, we said to ourselves, okay, the supplemental full document, we are evaluating if we can release earlier than August. However, can we release some of the information as it becomes available even sooner than that? So Merced portion of the cost estimation, we could probably release that within a week or two. That will become available because of what Director was mentioning before, of what's going on cap and trade discussions. That will help in that. Then we will release the Bakersfield section. And then by sometime in July, we will have the entire package that will be the report that will include also the Gilroy and Palmdale section. That will be, we are targeting now towards July instead of August.
Well, that would be good because of the budget situation, and people are going to want to know that information. Is it possible to do it in a more generic, large, overall picture where you're giving one large number instead of only because of the timing? The quicker that information is available, the better.
Let me look at that.
Just,
Let me look at that. If we can do that, what we are trying to avoid is using any parametric type of estimates. We're trying to do complete bottom up. So it's number one, we have level of confidence in the cost estimate over 90%. Then schedule, we are doing the same thing. So the teams are really working day and night to make sure when they deliver the numbers, these are the numbers we can stand behind for the next 10, 15 years.
right.
And not move much. If we do a global assessment of the program based on some parametric data, we can provide that kind of number. But really our intent is to go down into deep details and just understand fully the program. That's why we are releasing, as soon as the information becomes available, we are releasing it right away. So that's why it got into sections that I just said. That is the only reason.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the CEO Chaudhry? Hearing none, thank you. I think that it's fair to say also that you've got the complete support of this board. Ladies and gentlemen, we only have one other item on our agenda today. Just a quick update from a high level from our Finance and Audit Committee meeting earlier this morning. These numbers are as of February the 28th of 2025. The authority has approximately $4 billion in the bank, of which about 670 million of it is from Proposition 1A and 3.7 billion from cap and trade. This does not include another 213 billion or millions. I wish it was billion. 213 million from the February auction in cap and trade, and that's our share. The capital outlay budget for February, there was 85.2 million spent. The expectation in March is about double that, but not quite double. It's about 151 million for March. Total expenditures to date on this project, which includes going back to the very beginning, and it includes all facets of it, of the project. There's been approximately 14 billion spent. Of the money that's been spent, 82% has been spent by funds from the state of California. 82%, 18% from the federal government. Total project funding, so that's spent, but the total project funding is 73% from the federal or from the state of California and 23% from the federal government. We have, in terms of grants, we've got one outstanding grant application that was submitted in December It's through the federal, or for the federal-state partnership, and it's for 536 million. That grant, intent of the grant's funding is to do tunnel designing for the environmentally cleared sections of Bakersfield to Palmdale and Gilroy to the Central Valley. With regards to construction, in the month of February, we averaged 1,501 workers on our sites daily. That's an increase of 160 from the month before. And with regards to other progress, of the 92 structures needed in the Central Valley, 52% have been completed. 32 or 35% are in process. And of the 119 miles of guideway, 69 miles have been completed. That's 58%. 27% are in progress, or 27 miles, that's 23% are in progress, and 8 have not started yet, 8 miles. Utility relocations, there were 12 relocations that were completed in the month of February. Of the 1,541, or 84%, only 285 are remaining, of which 113 of those are in process, and 172 have not started yet. And finally, on right-of-way, of the 2,294 parcels that the authority needed for the 119 miles, only 21 are left to be purchased. So with that, that's the Finance and Audit Committee update for you. Do any of my colleagues have any other comments today? Seeing none. Tom, do you have any comments? No? Okay. Good news. A lot of good news today. Thank you all for being with us today. This concludes the May 1st meeting of the California High-Speed Rail Authority, and the meeting is adjourned.